As we get started with this course, I want to give some foundational pointers so that you're not lost along the way. First of all, there's going to be a lot of overlap because some things that apply in one module or lesson are naturally going to also apply to other modules or lessons. And I want to be able to keep that overlap for a couple of reasons. First, because this community and these courses, they're resources for you. So if you ever need a reference back to any single individual module or lesson, you can do that without having to remember exactly where the original reference was to whatever it is that we're learning. And second, the thing about languages is repeating is so incredibly important. It's how it gets seared into your brain. So overlap is good and expect that throughout the modules. A couple of things about Spanish that it's very, very different than English is that they have a formal and an informal way of speaking. So when somebody is addressing you, if they don't know you or if you have a position of authority, something like that, then they're going to want to address you in a more formal way. But when you're talking to little kids, it's perfectly fine to address them very informally, even if you've never met them before. And we're going to get into all of that. The other thing that's very different about Spanish when compared to English is gendered words. Nouns are considered either masculine or feminine and not in their very essence or nature. It's just having to do with the article that's used beforehand. So when you see la, that means that, and there are exceptions to this, which can be very confusing, but we're not going to bemoan that. But generally speaking, when you see la before a word, that word will generally end in an A. Again, there are exceptions to everything. And when that happens, then generally speaking, that word is a feminine word. And again, it has nothing to do with the nature. For example, you have la mesa. La mesa means the table. There's nothing inherently feminine about a table. And when you have a noun that has the word el in front of it, meaning the, generally that word is going to be a masculine word. And that word is going to end in the letter O. Again, there are definite exceptions, but I'm just trying to get you used to this concept. And there's nothing inherent about these words that are masculine either. Like there's el teléfono, that means the telephone. There's nothing inherently masculine about a telephone. The reason why the genders matter in terms of language for Spanish, it's so that you know the articles to use beforehand, whether it's la or el for the, or un or una for a or an something. Also, if you are using an adjective to describe that noun, you need to know how that word needs to end. For example, if you wanted to say the white table, you'd say la mesa blanca, la mesa blanca. Normally, in general, the adjective goes after the noun, but you would need to know that it's blanca and not blanco that goes after mesa because mesa is a feminine word. Same with telephone. If you wanted to say the black telephone, you'd say el teléfono negro, el teléfono negro, and that means the black telephone. Unless you're directly translating, then it means the telephone black. But you want to make sure that you're using negro and not negra when you are describing the teléfono. I just wanted to go over those absolute basics for you. And before you exit this module, make sure to check out the other lessons where I explain the different dialects that are used in Spanish, the one that we are going to be focusing on, the conjugations that we are not going to be using because they don't make sense for travel, what voceo is, what countries use it, and why we're not going to be learning it. And there's also a lesson where I go into who I am and what I do and why I love languages and why I love teaching languages and why I specifically love teaching language for travel. So if you want to get to know me a little bit better, then feel free to watch that. And if you don't care, then just skip it. As I mentioned in the Start Here video, which is posted in the general community discussion area, once you're done with a video, make sure to manually click the check mark. Otherwise, it won't appear green and it'll seem like you haven't completed anything and you won't remember where you left off. Before I exit this particular lesson, I want to invite you to participate whenever I have práctica, practice. And this is so that you can ask questions and you can ask questions in English. Obviously, that's my native tongue, so I'm going to understand exactly what you're trying to get across, and we will be able to figure out how to answer your questions together. When I speak Spanish, I don't tend to speak with a gringo accent, so I would never say La Mesa Blanca. Like to me, that's very unnatural. If that is the best that you can do, then I say any improvement is improvement and you'll still be understood. In French, it's a lot harder. In Italian, it's a lot harder to be understood unless you have like a great accent and meaning you have a great way of speaking French or Italian and you don't have an English accent. But when you have like an American or an English accent for speaking Spanish, it's not that big of a deal and people generally understand what you're trying to say. Without further ado, I will see you in the next lesson.